San Francisco Historical Society, giving our history a great future. Become a member today.
Did you know that our oceans are true climate heroes? They've absorbed over 90% of all the excess heat trapped on Earth. And without them, temperatures would have already soared by almost 100 degrees. But they can only take so much. Climate change is being driven by greenhouse gas emissions, threatening our planet and straining our oceans. You can help. Join Oceana today to protect our oceans at oceana.org/hero.
95.7 The Game is an equal opportunity employer, and we encourage local community organizations to refer qualified applicants to us. You can receive The Game and Odyssey job vacancy information by contacting Human Resources at 415-765-4011 or by emailing sfhr@odyssey.com.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM at HD1 San Francisco. An Odyssey station.
Good morning, area.
It's time to wake up. It's 5, and we're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game. Come on!
So much for that backup quarterback competition throughout the season, right? Wow. Wow. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is the Pregame Show, Joe Spadoni. And let's get right started. You know the number to call, to text, 888-957-9570, Xfinity Mobile text line. Hit us up on Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. We are up and streaming. Search 95.7 The Game, like and subscribe there. Ring that bell and download that Odyssey app. Take us wherever you need to go, all around the country. Search 95.7 The Game, like and subscribe there. Favorite it. Sam Darnold, QB2, officially. Trey Lance, seeking other options. This dropped about 11:40 yesterday. Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport reporting of NFL Network that the 49ers are naming Sam Darnold their number 2 quarterback, and the team is exploring options with Trey Lance. Darnold will back up Brock Purdy, while the future of Lance, the number 3 overall pick in 2021, is unclear. Is that the right move? It's simple today, folks. 888-957-9570. Does it matter? You know, a lot of the conversation we were having yesterday at the station prior to this dropping was like, what are we doing? Me specifically on this show, the Pregame Show, Joe Spadoni. Why are we having this much conversation about the backup quarterback? And it's finally taken Kyle Shanahan until now to realize, yeah, I don't need that distraction. Because it would have been. You know, the comments yesterday, I'm going to play it again. The guy just 2 days ago was talking about, we might alternate our backups throughout the week. It might be a fluid situation. I don't know. Well, he was lying. He was absolutely lying. Again, more of these media games Kyle Shanahan loves to do. And it's talking about it yesterday. Thank God he's a winner. Otherwise, it would be unbearable. So 888-957-9570. Sam Darnold is now QB2 for the San Francisco 49ers. Is that the right move? Does it matter? Was the season already over if Brock Purdy goes down anyways? You know, you trade for a guy, 3 first-round picks, including a pick swap, back in 2020. I think he's going to be your future quarterback. And now he's not even going to be starting an entire season, let alone a 5th game. I mean, he's played in 8 of them, started 4. And this is it. I mean, Trey Lance is done as a 49er. Pretty wild. We've gotten to this point. And maybe it's not that wild when you consider the fact that they tried to trade him during the draft. Ian Rappaport reporting for NFL Network that they had conversations with the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe those conversations will pick back up again in regards to a trade. It's just funny little layers there with Kirk Cousins obviously being in Minnesota. Talk of maybe next year the Niners pursuing him if this quarterback position still isn't, solidified. But they believe in Brock Purdy. He's their guy. And that's, been apparent the last month or so since the surgery's gone well, since he's been ready. The conversation was never about Brock not deserving to be QB1. He absolutely showed last year that he deserves to be that QB1. The conversation was, with that injury he had, not quite the Tommy John, but a torn ligament in his elbow that needed, to be reconstructed, if you will. The conversation was, is he going to be ready for week 1? And if not, who's going to start? Who deserves to start? Trey Lance, he needs all the reps opportunities, but hell, this is a win now year. It's a win now mode. NFC is down. There's the Eagles, and then there's the Niners. Those are the two most talented teams, but that quarterback position, big question mark. We can't afford to lose it. So let's bring Sam Darnold in. First day of free agency when it begins, and we'll have a QB competition. Well, they didn't like what they saw from Trey. Shanahan spoke yesterday and said, they were neck and neck for a long time, quote, but really over the last 10 days, we felt Sam started to separate himself. We felt he did it in practice consistently and has been getting better each day. So there you have it. Sam Darnold, QB2 for your San Francisco 49ers. And is the drama going to stop there? We'll see. A lot of people thought, Trey needs the reps. He needs the reps. Absolutely, he does. I totally agree. And he's not going to get them this year with this team. That was apparent. It was apparent in the first preseason game. It was apparent in the second preseason game, although he had some nice moments. That wasn't enough to keep his job with this team. But Sam Darnold, I believe he's going to have some opportunities this year. We'll see how Brock Purdy holds up. I would like to see Brock stay healthy the entire year, because if Brock stays healthy the entire year, I think the 49ers are in the Super Bowl. And if Brock replicated what he did last season, playing like a top 10 quarterback and at times, hell, a top 5 quarterback, probably hoisting a Lombardi. Can he do that the entire season? That's going to be the huge question mark for this team. But as it pertains to Sam Darnold and Trey Lance, what say you, 49er faithful? 888-957-9570. Good morning to Dublin Marge, Jesus M., Luis Robertson, Rusty Haskins, Sideshow Bob, my guy Ernie Chavez, El Guero. Buenos dias, señores. 4 first-round picks. It was 3 first-round. Is swap, including one. So, technically it was 2 and then a swap, but semantics, if you will. But yeah, you can call it what it is. For the San Francisco 49ers, it's one of the biggest busts in their history. And we'll have all the time to discuss that. All the different trickle-down effects, and once Trey's eventually moved, that's going to when the conversations are going to really start to be had. Hell, we were just doing this with James Wiseman, with the Golden State Warriors, right? John Dickinson was joining Alan Stiles and Daryl the Guru Johnson yesterday, and Steiny and Goo, live from training camp, and Guru asked them the question. He's like, hey, bigger bust right now, is it James Wiseman or is it Trey Lance? And then JD, he was like, easily James Wiseman. I was like, I totally disagree. Warriors didn't need to, trade all those picks to get James. They were just bad for a season. Niners have been good. And Jimmy Garoppolo just couldn't stay healthy, and they're like, you know what? We need to go get our guy. And they thought they had their guy in Trey Lance. Turns out he wasn't. And we're going to dissect this trade and bust for this team for years to come. Now, if Brock Purdy ends up being that guy, it doesn't matter, because you found your quarterback eventually. Winning cures all. That's the thing. But I'll say this. If they don't win it all this year, and next year you're circling the drain again, trying to figure out the answers, if you still have your quarterback or not, then that bust of a pick is going to start showing himself. Because you also whiffed, right now, we'll see what happens this year, on Javon Kinlaw. Right? You've whiffed on some of these picks in years past. And that eventually bites you in the ass going forward. It's the reason why hitting on the Kittles, on the Warners, on the Bosas create championship type of windows. But at the juxtaposition, if you will, on the flip side of that, if you whiff on a lot of these picks, that sets you back. That puts you behind the Philadelphias of the world, the Kansas Cities, who you're competing with in the Super Bowl, the Cincinnati Bengals, those kind of teams they're going up against. Because they have the luxury of an elite quarterback. You just saw it with Kansas City winning the Super Bowl. They got rid of Tyreek Hill. All right, yeah, you can go to Miami. We're so confident in Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce that they could deodorize anything on offense. And they were right. They bet on their quarterback. The 49ers right now this season, they have everything else. And if Brock Purdy, again, is that guy, is that quarterback, and I'm not saying he's going to be Mahomes, but if he can play like a top 10 quarterback at times and just hover around top 15, they're probably going to be in the Super Bowl. And I think he has to play like a top 10 quarterback if they have to win it, because they're going to be going up against those tier 1 quarterbacks in the AFC. Whether it's Rodgers, whether it's Josh Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, the Lawrences of the world, hell, the Herberts, all those guys. Good morning on the Xfinity mobile text line. 888-957-9570 is the number. 209 already. He's like, well, you already whiffed on Moody and Latu. We'll see. We'll see. I'm concerned about Jake Moody, though. That is a good point. And he traded up for him the third round to get him. So, again, another pick not looking the best, but it's early. Latu, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Morali, good morning. I saw you chiming in, Morali, on the chat. One of our go-to here's on the Twitch and YouTube chat. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Big day yesterday for India. Shout out India. First country in our history, correct? I say our history, world history, to land on the south pole of the moon, correct? Lunar landing for India. Hey, congrats. That's awesome. Rusty Haskins. Can't say Trey is a bust. Can never assess on 4 true games. I'm not saying Trey is a bust yet. I'm saying the 49ers, that pick for them was a bust. Not Trey himself, but the pick itself, they crapped out. I think that's fair to say. That was a horrible pick. That might be the worst, given the trade, giving the assets you gave up to go up and get him, and getting the value you got in return. That's probably the biggest bust in the franchise's history. Even more so than AJ Jenkins. I'm pretty confident in saying that. I'm not saying Trey Lance himself is, but for the 49ers, that pick was a bust. And no, I do not foresee Trey Lance ever coming back here. I don't. But you hit on 2 7th-rounders, Dublin Marge says. Purdy and Ronnie Bell. Let's relax on Ronnie Bell. Haven't seen anything from him in a professional game. Preseason, whatever. We'll see. Purdy, we'll see again. 8-game sample size. Could he turn back into a pumpkin after a year or an offseason of tape from some of these defenses? Sure. I would not be shocked. But right now, to your point, Double Marge, yes. That's a hit. And again, that would be the ultimate deodorizer. Winning. That's what it is. No one's going to remember Trey Lance if you go out and win a Lombardi this year. That's just the facts. Some people will. It's fine. If they were, that was their guy, Trey Lance, they're going to feel some kind of way about it, how the handling of it's been. And I agree. I do not think the handling of this entire situation has been great. I do not. And Tom Pelissero, who joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday, talked about, Lance not being at practice and his disappointment.
Well, the fact that Trey Lance wasn't on the field today probably gives you a pretty good indication of what this, but that doesn't mean that, it's a storm out of the building type of situation. But, there's an intense disappointment when, by all accounts, he's made strides through the course of this offseason and it still wasn't good enough. He takes the day away at this point. He and Sam Darnold have the same agency, CAA. So the writing's been on the wall since they went out and gave Sam Darnold a big upside contract in the offseason. Now that happened with, of course, the backdrop of Brock Purdy, who at the time was facing elbow surgery. There was no certainty he'd be ready for the start of camp here. But the moment that Darnold comes in, and it's somebody that, Darnold's the guy that Kyle's liked for a long time, been intrigued by with his skill set, and then Brock comes back healthy. I think that everybody knew that it was quite possible that it would go this direction. All you can really control if you're a player in that scenario is go out and give your best every day. And Trey Lance did that. He still rode the roller coaster. There still were the accuracy issues, but he really did have a good camp and a good preseason from everybody that I talked to. It's just not enough.
Just not enough. Again, Tom Pelissero there, who reported with Ian Rappaport that Sam Darnold is the QB2 and that the 49ers are exploring their options with Trey Lance. And Pelissero goes on to say, a logical conclusion is that the 49ers trade Trey Lance in the next 6 days.
I don't think that this is the death knell for Trey Lance. It's just hard when you're taking third string reps and you haven't been healthy over the last couple of years. And, a team that's, had to put everything into how do we win a Super Bowl right now, they don't really have time to go through that, the normal type of growth process, which, remember, they were willing to do a year ago at this time until he got hurt early on. Jimmy Garoppolo came back into the mix. So I do think they can get something for Trey Lance. They're going to have to weigh that out versus the possibility of keeping a fourth quarterback on the roster and maybe making a trade somewhere down the line. Again, the logical conclusion of this is Trey Lance ends up traded, most likely in the next 6 days. Where that is, when that happens, exactly what they get, that's going to depend on where the marketplace shakes out in the next 24 to 48 hours. Since we reported that this morning, are always the important times. You get a pretty good feel really quickly about what type of interest there is within the league on a guy.
On the YouTube chat, powered by First Norcal Credit Union, again, Morali, my boy, the 49ers are frustrated in the Trey Lance situation because the return on investment is so bad. So the fans cannot accept this. That's why they are being emotional, I believe. Fans are being emotional because they felt like they got their franchise guy a few years ago, Morali, and then we never even got to see him get a chance, really. And what I mean by that is, sure, he had opportunities to. He got hurt. It is what it is. That sucks. Fine. But I think we're all kind of agreeing now, at least I am, maybe not others. I know Mark Willard in the afternoons does not agree with this. I've heard him on Willard and Dibs. They should have started Trey immediately. This is what you do in the NFL. Unless you have Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, that whole situation, which is probably the last of a dying breed here when I say, sitting behind a guy for 2 or 3 years before you get your opportunity. And it may pay off for Jordan Love. We'll see. He may be awesome. And then the Packers, have their third consecutive Hall of Famer, Favre, Rodgers, Love. Sure. But for the most part, I think the consensus is now you play these guys. You play them. Anthony Richardson, playing. CJ Stroud, going to start. Bryce Young, going to start. All these guys. That's what happens. Justin Herbert. They went with Tyrod Taylor and then they realized, oh, wait, we have this first round pick. Why do we draft him again? Oh, yeah, because he has a cannon of an arm. He's awesome. And he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Oh, yeah. You play these guys immediately. You knew you weren't winning a Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo. And don't give me they were just in the NFC Championship. They ended up going there. And if it wasn't for the injuries in his arm, they'd probably beat the Rams. They were not winning a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. You needed to see what you had with Trey Lance. Give him the reins. That's why you drafted him. Traded all those picks because you wanted your guy. And then you're going to sit him behind Jimmy Garoppolo? I think it's fair to say in hindsight that was the wrong move. It was the wrong move. You need to see what you had in this guy, and you're never going to see it again. Hell, we may never see it again. And you can say, well, that was, that's just how it goes. It's the injuries. And I was like, I'm not buying that as an excuse. I'm just not. You invested all this draft capital in him. You knew you weren't winning a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's why you sniffed around Matt Stafford. It's why you sniffed around Aaron Rodgers. It's why you sniffed around Tom Brady. You knew you were not winning a Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo. So why didn't you give Trey Lance his opportunities at the earliest point when you knew he needed reps? You knew he was this raw. That is what 49er fans are frustrated with. And I completely and 1,000% understand why. More from Kyle Shanahan, who spoke to the media yesterday on Trey Lance's future. Quote, I also don't think, Trey, this means that he can't be with us or someone else ever in the future. I mean, this is just where camp went right now. Goes on to say, when he broke his finger, it really kind of messed him up and took away his first year for him. It was a tough, very tough fight between him and Darnold, but in the long run, Sam ended up winning it. Once I knew that was the case, wanted to make sure I told Trey as fast as I could. And that's the news yesterday, yada, yada, yada. Sam Darnold, QB2, how he feeling, 49er faithful. Funny. So Kyle Shanahan, those quotes were with an interview yesterday. And Fred Warner was the one that actually had to speak at practice to the media. And he was just like, I don't know what the hell's going on either. So God bless Fred. This was his response to what the question everyone wanted to know. What's going on with Trey Lance? Why isn't he at practice? Here's Fred Warner, all-pro linebacker, talking about it.
I don't know much about the situation, like complete honesty. I came out to practice. I saw there's only 3 quarterbacks out there. Trey's not out there, so I'm trying to ask around what's going on. There's not a clear answer right now. Obviously, love Trey. I don't know what's going on with him right now or what's going to be next, but yeah, we just got to keep preparing, get ready. We have a game on Friday, keep preparing towards Pittsburgh, getting better. But with the QB stuff, I'm honestly not even sure what exactly is going on.
Not exactly sure what's going on. That was a lot of 49ers fans for the past 5 months. What's going on with this backup quarterback situation? Something. Like, we were having legit conversations around the fact that, are we sure it's a legit competition? Is Brock Purdy the clear-cut number one? See, it was interesting when Kyle Shanahan also spoke to the media yesterday, or to a media outlet, I should say, about Brock Purdy heading into camp. And this was his quote on it. Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the 49ers, quote, it actually blows my mind that there's confusion because I feel like we've said that 100% consistent since day one. But there's confusion, I guess, so I'll keep saying it, that Brock is the starter. Well, there's confusion when you have comments like what John Lynch was saying. Yeah, right now he's the leader in the clubhouse. When you say something like that, that leaves the door open to be there's a competition. And maybe they're always going to say, oh, well, there's always competition. We're always trying to get the best. No. I know who the number one is in Kansas City, in Cincinnati, in Buffalo, in Los Angeles, in Seattle. I know who QB1 is and who is starting week 1. They could have put that to bed and say, yeah, Brock's starting week 1. Oh, they were just hiding around the injury thing. I was like, stop. You knew his recovery was 100% on point. You knew he was recovering fine. Could have said this weeks ago. And as it pertains to Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, I think they knew immediately when they brought Sam in that Trey's days were numbered. Hell, you already heard the reports from Pelissero. They were already looking to trade Trey during the draft. Didn't get what they wanted, and we'll see what they get now, which I'm sure won't be a lot because all the other 31 teams in the NFL now have the leverage against him because they know that they don't want Trey Lance on their team. So they're not going to get much in return. Do they attach someone with him? Do they attach another draft pick to try to get... we shall see. I don't know how much Trey Lance, a guy that's started 4 games, is going to fetch out there. 888-957-9570. Seeing on the chat here, didn't he hurt his finger in the preseason game, but he was well enough to play week 1 against Detroit? And he scored the team's first touchdown? Right? But he ran the ball. He was fine. I think that's completely BS. Here's more from Pelissero, who joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday. Again, Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport reporting for NFL Network that Sam Darnold, QB2, Trey Lance, probably goodbye. But here's Pelissero talking about interest around the NFL for Trey Lance.
You would anticipate that there's going to be interest out there. It just comes down to, for the 49ers, can they get enough in terms of a trade where it makes sense for them to move on from him? I mean, again, I think the most logical outcome is Trey Lance being traded. Obviously, they like Brock Purdy a lot. As long as he's healthy, they're committed to him as QB1. Sam Darnold, from the time he got there, has really impressed Kyle and that staff. So he's the number 2. And then they got a guy in Brandon Allen who's played games for a few different teams, and he's got a lot of experience. He's been a great guy in the room the last few years in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. That's kind of the way that your depth chart is set up here. That's not to say that Trey Lance can't be back. I think there's certainly a scenario where he returns to the team, and his absence from practice today was not an indication that it's over right now. It does, though, I think, show, and again, everybody likes Trey as a person. It's got to be hard news to hear when you're the former number 3 overall draft pick, and now suddenly you've gone from the starter to third on the depth chart in a matter of a year.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Trey Lance is going to be a San Francisco 49er come week 1. I don't see it. I think he either gets cut, I think they eat it, or they find some trade partner for a 6th or 7th conditional round pick. Something like that. Condition upon they get the 6th round pick if Trey starts 2 or 3 games, something like that. It's usually what it is. I think that's what ends up happening, because I do not believe Kyle Shanahan wants this conversation to be going on throughout the season. It's exhausting. You don't want every single player asked about it all the time. Hey, is the QB battle, you said it was a fluid situation. Is Trey number 2 this week? Is Sam number 2? Like, you don't want that. You don't. Ernie Chavez on the chat. Twitch and YouTube powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Search 95.7 The Game. Like and subscribe, by the way. We are streaming all day right here on 95.7 The Game, and we will be talking Trey Lance on 95.7 The Game. Sam Darnold, QB2. All this. All day right here on 95.7 The Game. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Giants, they won 8-6 in Philadelphia in extras. Congratulations. Ernie Chavez. Raiders ruined Lance's career. Got hurt that first season against the Raiders in the last preseason game, and then that first preseason game against the Raiders this preseason. O'Connell looked better this preseason than Trey ever looked. Yeah, we'll see. Aiden O'Connell. Hey. Shout out Rick O'Connell, as you all know, the mummy. We'll see what happens there. But to your point, Ernie, I actually thought the Raiders actually would be a good team for him until this Aiden O'Connell thing popped up, and it would have been a funny twist of fate for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's like, the guy looking behind him now is Trey Lance. Because Trey would have had weapons with Vegas too. Like, he would be going to a situation where he can get reps in, and they're doing a rebuild in Vegas right now, and it's not they're not saying it, but they're kind of doing a soft rebuild. But he would have had Devontae, and you would think Jacobs was coming back at some point. Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow. Oh, okay. Cooking with some gas there. But Aiden O'Connell obviously been the baller of the preseason for all these rookie QBs. So that is going to be nipped in the bud right there. Who's going to go after Trey Lance? That's going to be an interesting question. Vikings, Tampa's out there. I think of some teams like that. Tampa Bay makes sense. They got Baker Mayfield right now. Hell, if he gets cut, I think he'd have a lot of suitors. And wouldn't Trey Lance want to stick it to the 49ers? And what better way of sticking it to them? That team down in Los Angeles and the Rams. Pair him with Sean McVay? Could be interesting. We'll discuss more of that on the other side. We're up against it here on the pregame show. 888-957-9570. Sam Darnold, QB2. Trey Lance on the market? You okay with that, 49er faithful? We'll discuss that on the other side. 95.7 The Game.
Servicing your Ford has never been easier than it is at Serramonte Ford. Scheduling your vehicle service is as simple as 1, 2, 3. Just go to SerramonteFord.com/service to find a time that works for you. Then ask us about vehicle pickup and delivery. Only at Serramonte Ford, your Bay Area Ford dealer.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you...
historical presentations. Go to sfhistory.org and discover the San Francisco Historical Society, giving our history a great future. Become a member today.
Now, back to the pregame show on 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back. Pre-game show, Joe Spadoni, 95.7 The Game. Still Trey? Still Dre. Oh. How long will Trey stay in a 49ers uniform? As Sam Darnold, fight on, has been named QB2 of your San Francisco 49ers behind Brock Purdy. How are you feeling about that, 49er fans? Sam Darnold, Mr. Seeing Ghosts, is your QB2. And you heard from Dante Whitner, the hitman himself. He was on with Kay Adams and FanDuel up in Adams. Great show. Love Kay. But he was saying, hey, it's a pretty big deal to be QB2 for the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan, because you will have to play some games. We've seen it. And he better step up to the challenge. Well, Kyle Shanahan believes that. But this was just a few years ago. And do you ever walk away from a comment like this on national TV? I believe this was on Monday Night Football, too. I forget who the team was. Maybe it was the Browns. I'm not sure. But it's definitely when he was a Jet. He was mic'd up, and then you don't come back from this, right?
Seeing ghosts.
I don't know. I don't think you could ever come back from seeing ghosts. Shout out Casper. Shout out 13 Ghosts. I always liked that movie. Is that Matthew Lillard? Amongst others. Tony Shalhoub. It's a deep cut for you. You're on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni. You know the number to get involved, 888-957-9570. It's the call or text the Xfinity mobile text line. Sam Darnold, QB2. How are you feeling about that, 49er fans? Do you think Trey Lance should have been QB2? Do you think, hell, it was just never going to work here? Because it feels like after the injury, the final one last year, to think that that was the last snap he was going to play in a regular season game, it's kind of wild, right? I mean, week 2 against the Seahawks at home, that was all she wrote for his career in San Francisco. After just being, pegged as the next hope and savior at quarterback for this team, the squad, taking over for Jimmy Garoppolo because he was always hurt, only for your next guy to just keep getting hurt. It's wild. And then for, again, Brock Purdy, the next guy you think, getting hurt in the NFC Championship game. Can one of these guys just stay healthy, for God's sakes? I mean, that's just the biggest question mark. So to Dante Whitner's point, yes, QB2 is a big deal because all these guys end up getting hurt. Sam Darnold, step up. Can he revitalize his career? For all the promise there is regarding Trey Lance, there was like that for Sam Darnold for a long time. And a lot of people still think that if he gets in the right situation, he could still show something. But this guy's played 55 games. 55. I mean, if we're just looking at his Pro Football Reference stats, 56, excuse me. 61 touchdowns, 55 interceptions. 59% completion percentage. 59.7, excuse me. 6.7 yards per attempt. 21 and 34 overall. So you have 55 games. I mean, this is kind of who he is at this point, right? And if you want to say Spadoni, that's fine for a backup. He's got arm talent. That's fine. If he just doesn't have to play, I was like, okay. But the whole reason this QB2 battle is important because we all agree there may come a time where he may have to play 2 to 3 games, and it may be in a crucial stretch this season, down the stretch, where you're going up against some elite pass rushers, And you want your guys seeing ghosts back there to potentially cost you some games? I mean, I just feel like we know who Sam Darnold is at this point. This is my whole thing this entire time. He has not been good. He sees ghosts. Trey Lance, I don't know anything about the guy yet. So the people that say, I already know who Trey Lance is, him and Darnold, they both, not very good, but at least Darnold has started all these games. So I at least know that he can play quarterback in the NFL. I would rather take the unknown of a Trey Lance than the known of a Sam Darnold. I don't think it's that crazy. And I think the 49ers, wouldn't you want to take that unknown still with Trey? Because you gave up all that draft capital to get him? That's why it's just so strange to me. Why Sam Darnold? Unless the hubris of a Kyle Shanahan, who we can't underestimate in this entire thing, thinks that, I could fix him. I am the QB guru. Are you? I mean, outside of Matt Ryan in that Super Bowl year, how many different quarterbacks are we looking at here? RG3, I get it, 1 year. And we got Johnny Manziel under the belt there somewhere. Kirk Cousins, Brian Hoyer, Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, and maybe Sam Darnold moving forward. Who knows? Quarterback whisperer? It's got just John Gruden vibes. It does. And John Gruden, what was his entire makeup? He likes this quarterback until he finds his other quarterback. He could never find that next quarterback. That's why he could never win another Super Bowl. He won with an elite defense and one of the greatest defenses of all time. And yeah, it helps when you go up against your former team and you know all their plays in the Oakland Raiders at the time. Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice, Tim Brown. We all know. So is that what we're looking at here? Kyle Shanahan continuing to look for that next QB? I don't know. I don't think it's the craziest thing. That was his mentor. That's who he learned the game from. A lot of it. Out in Tampa, that was his first ever job. Was with John Gruden. And maybe Brock Purdy, maybe he is. This Mr. Irrelevant storyline continues to play. It's a fairy tale ending. I'm going to Disney World. They're hoisting a Lombardi. Night, night. See you later. And this is much ado about nothing. For Kyle Shanahan's sake, I hope so. Because if we go out through this season again and we don't have this quarterback thing figured out, it's a problem. And it's a big one, especially when you whiff on all that draft capital, Trey Lance, who, again, you are planning to move off of. If you're just joining us here on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni, Sam Darnold named QB2 for the San Francisco 49ers. Trey Lance, reportedly, they're going to look to move him. They had conversations with Minnesota during the draft. Those talks fizzled. Can they rekindle again prior to week 1 of the NFL season? Tom Pelissero says, makes sense.
The number one team is the Vikings because not just that Trey Lance is from Minnesota and he's got family there and he went to North Dakota State, which isn't far away, but also just, Kirk Cousins is in a contract here. So if you're the Vikings and you're sitting there going, okay, we don't know exactly what direction things are going to go with Kirk. If they win a bunch this year, Kirk plays well, maybe they extend him. Maybe this is not a conversation they end up having to have. But right now, the rest of their depth chart at quarterback is Nick Mullins, who, Nick's been out there. We know what Nick Mullins is. He's probably not your future starter. And then they got Jared Hall, who was a 7th-round pick, did some cool stuff on tape, was hurt throughout his career at BYU. He's a developmental player as well. With Trey Lance, he's first-round talent. He went number 3 overall. That wasn't by accident. So, buy low type of situation to bring him in and have him slotted as the 3rd guy on the depth chart, let him run the scout team, get him with really good coaches that they've got up there. It would make some sense. I'm sure there's other teams as well, but, if you're asking me the fits to make sense to me, that would be number 1 on the list.
Tom Pelissero there again, who joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday. You can find that entire interview on YouTube. Search 95.7 The Game. Like and subscribe there. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. And also download the Odyssey app. You can find that there. Favorite 95.7 The Game. We got one more segment coming up here as Sam Darnold again named QB2 of the San Francisco 49ers. Trey Lance's days numbered here in Santa Clara. Well, I'll ask Joe Shasky on the other side for the crossover on 95.7 The Game.
I can't wait for what's next, even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist-prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise.
could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the pregame show on 95.7 The Game.
Did they forget about Trey? Oh, too soon?
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if today's a day for jokes, because I think today's one of the first days I can remember in a long time. It feels like everybody is very disappointed, not in the decisions and the things, how you're handling with
You're going
things.
full parent, disappointed. Not angry, just disappointed. That's Joe Shasky joining me now for the
I got to
crossover.
unload a clip today.
It's the pregame show with Joe Spadoni. And again, 5:45 Monday through Friday. This lovely gentleman, Joe Shasky, joins me for the crossover. And Joe, I mean, the news. Sam Darnold, QB2. Where were you when you heard it?
All right,
what is your first? I want your instant reaction when you saw it. You weren't shocked, I'm sure.
No.
But
here's what I said. Why did we go through this charade?
Yeah.
Why did you bring this on your team? If you knew this for
totally
months
agree.
leading on, why did you bring this drama on your team? You're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. Your defensive player of the year hasn't played a snap of preseason at all. I'm talking about practice, okay? You brought QB drama all over the board. You can't afford anyone moving forward because you've locked yourself in, and you've hyped up Brock Purdy to the point where I feel bad for the guy, because if and when he stumbles even a little, people are going to be calling for Sam Darnold, who you called the next Steve Young erroneously.
Oh my God!
And you've spent all offseason telling us we don't know football, and that the tight end blocking the guy. It's the tight end's fault. It was Jimmy G's fault. Well, when's it your fault, Kyle?
No, it's a good point.
And here's the thing: the guy wins a ton of games. No one is saying that he's not, on some level, a guy who does win a lot of games. Here's how I judge someone. And Joe, you're raising a young man right now. All right, I know you are. You're raising young Benny. All right, and I'm giving you life tips from me. This is from my grandfather, from my grandmother, from my dad, from my life. And this is what I say to people. I just had a talk with my nephew who's been kind of acting a fool. He's going into freshman year this year. And I say the same thing every time.
It's a big year.
Do you know what being a man is? And I'm not trying to do some machismo thing. I'm really not. Being a man, a.k.a. being an adult, whether you're a man or a woman, it's doing a lot of things you really don't want to do deep down inside, but you have to step up, and you got to show up, and you got to face it.
Yep.
I don't care what it is, whether we're talking about homework at school, whether we're talking about you lying and having to lay on the sword, whether it's you having to do something uncomfortable, and when you're the head of the family, because that's what Kyle Shanahan is. Kyle, make no mistake about it. Kyle Shanahan is the head of the 49ers.
He does everything. He has the final say on all the roster and all this sort of stuff. John Lynch, you give him credit for some things. Kyle Shanahan runs the show.
He helped hire, Lynch wouldn't be here if Kyle didn't approve of
Correct.
it. When we all agree?
Correct.
Okay. This was your guy. Now, here's the thing. No one is saying that you cannot move off of Trey Lance. Everybody's like, yeah, we're not sure if he's any good. Okay, which is, whether you think Trey is good, bad, I don't even know. I don't think he's that good, but I don't know. But it was your guy. Man up and either move off of him, and don't let everyone go through this charade, because you brought it upon your entire team. And then yesterday, and I'm telling you, this really bugged me. I don't care what day you're supposed to meet with the media. When me and anyone talks on these airwaves, anything slightly negative on any of these teams, believe me, we do hear about it. Sometimes quicker than others. Some teams have thinner or thicker skin than others. The Niners have always been arrogant, and I'm going to unload on this because it pisses me off. The Niners know if I rip the owner even a little, I hear about it all the time. So you can't tell me they're not acutely aware of what people are saying and doing. And you have an entire social media team. You knew that this was breaking down on social media. And you sent Fred Warner up to the podium instead of yourself. Okay, I know. Maybe you don't meet on Wednesdays with the media. Well, on this particular day, this is not a backup offensive lineman. This is the guy you picked. You have created this circus. Every day you've been asked about quarterback. And today's the day that you decide to be MIA?
And here's what Fred Warner said.
I thought it was cowardly.
Well, and just listen to Fred Warner, how like unsure and like he just looks like he's like a deer in headlights. I feel bad for the guy. Here's All-Pro Fred Warner talking about the quarterback situation yesterday at practice.
I don't know much about the situation, like complete honesty. I came out to practice. I saw there's only 3 quarterbacks out there. Trey's not out there, so I'm trying to ask around what's going on. There's not a clear answer right now. Obviously, love Trey. I don't know what's going on with him right now or what's going to be next, but yeah, we just got to keep preparing, get ready. We have a game on Friday, keep preparing towards Pittsburgh, getting better, but with the QB stuff, I'm honestly not even sure what exactly is going on.
That's the leader of your team, Joe Shasky.
It's unfair to him.
That's a leader of your team, and he has to ask questions because he doesn't know what's happening. I understand it's offense and defense, but he's a leader of your team, and he's out there just hung to dry.
Pick another team. Let's in the middle of the Bruce Bochy era. Could you imagine Buster Posey having to speak because Tim Lincecum demanded a trade? Or anyone, a backup pitcher, like whatever. Pick whoever you want. And look, here's the crazy thing. I'm not saying that Trey Lance can't be moved. So listen to what I'm saying. You've made the decision. I'm okay with it. Now, we can have a whole separate argument, and I'm going to get to that, on like, why did you even allow this circus to happen? Because you kind of knew that you didn't want the guy anyway. Fine. Totally fine.
They should have just traded him when they had the offer, whatever it was. I'm sure it was a conditional 6th or 7th back in the draft, and they should have just done that. They would have saved a lot more face. Go ahead. Right?
In hindsight. When you make a mistake, you man up, you admit it, and you move on.
Well, the best teams do that.
I know.
The Patriots do that all the time.
But he allowed this charade to happen, and here's the problem. Is these have human relationship ramifications, right? And so I don't know what Fred Warner's thinking right now, but I'll tell you this. Me, Joe Shasky, a lifelong 49er fan. I've been here before Kyle Shanahan. I will be here after Kyle Shanahan, because best believe he is not coach. I'm living to 100. All right, I'm telling you that on the front end. I'm either dying of a heart attack at 50 or I'm living till 100, and I will be here after Shanahan.
You're going to outlive this building. It's falling
and I'm going
apart.
to tell you this right now. I had the most respect for Shanahan. I thought he was a great coach. Now, I still think he's very good. I think they're going to win a lot of games this year. It's hard to unsee this, and I've lost a ton of respect for him.
Wow. That's and you're one of the biggest, if not the biggest 49er fan I know.
It pains me to say that. I can't look at him the same.
No, hey, listen, I completely agree. Like, this felt... No. I'm not going to compare it to that because I was going to go down a road. I'll tell you that.
But here's the thing, Joey, you can move off. No one is saying you can't move off Trey. It's how you do it.
Well, I was talking about this yesterday, and people were getting a little upset at me. I was like, the way he speaks about his team
you were right.
and to the media, thank God he wins, because if he didn't, he would be coming off like kind of a jerk.
And you know what else?
Like, it's just,
you know what my mind is doing? I'm now doing revisionist history saying, you know, Joe, you were probably way too harsh on Jimmy Garoppolo, and Kyle treated him like crap. And I should have seen this coming.
And Jimmy does not mess with him.
And if you're Brock, I'm going to let you know this right now. We all love you, Brock. The second you slip, you think it's going to be Kyle's fault or yours?
That's a good point.
Yesterday, the clock officially started for Kyle Shanahan. He's boxed himself in. It's Brock and it's Sam Darnold. Good luck, buddy. Prove it to me.
I mean...
No, I'm dead serious.
If those two don't succeed, you're saying that he should be out?
You really picked Blaine Gabbert 2.0, and then you're out here saying he's the next Steve Young? Dog, what are you doing?
I'm looking at that comment again. I really pulled it up.
Doing?
I forgot he even said that. I know it was like only a month ago. This was
Brock was awesome. You want to move off Trey. You should have just ate the money and traded him in the offseason.
This was with Michael Silver of the San Francisco Chronicle just a month ago. Quote, Kyle Shanahan, 49ers head coach. Quote, I mean, Steve Young took a while to get it going, and he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I don't like to compare anyone to Steve because of how good he is, but why can't Sam be like that? Oh, why can't Sam be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? Because he's played 55 games and he stinks.
Everybody points to like Gannon and Alex Smith. They're outliers.
Yeah, Rich Gannon was a 2-time first-team All-Pro and an MVP. That's not happening again that late in a career.
Who was the guy who played for the Minnesota Vikings? I always forget his name, who had the one-year wonder. He had like 25 touchdowns, and then they went to the playoffs, and then he lost.
Case Keenum?
Case Keenum.
Yeah, that happened. The Minnesota Miracle. And then nothing happened after that.
It's just
that's the one I compare with Brock Purdy real quick. That's the one run I saw. I was like, wow, Case looks like he's and then he lost again. It was actually ironic. He lost to that NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. Now, he didn't get hurt. He just looked bad. They were overwhelmed, yada, yada, yada. But again, to your point, he's married himself this season to Brock Purdy, a guy who's played 8 games, Joe Shasky, in the league, in the NFL, and a guy in Sam Darnold who many would say already is kind of a bust.
Joe.
It's kind of wild.
But Joe, when you're the head of the family, you're allowed to do whatever you want. This is your organization. Do whatever you want.
I mean, he wins, so that's why he gets the pass. Yeah, I understand that, and he's won at a high level.
But Joe, you're allowed to. You can move off Trey. No one's arguing that.
Yes.
Okay?
It's the way it was handled for you.
Why'd you bring this circus on?
Yeah.
If your mind was already made up, you should have just paid the money to move off of him and not bring this drama upon yourself. And then simultaneously, like, have some conviction in your beliefs. If that's what you saw, if this is what you believe, all right, fine. But guess what? Here's the thing. John Lynch didn't draft Trey Lance. You did.
Yeah.
John Lynch didn't move up 3 picks. You did. This was the guy you wanted. Honestly, when you look at their quarterback history, and we're going to go over a lot of this stuff, I think panic is at the top of a lot of their decisions.
They were too scared to pull the trigger multiple times. I went through it. Aaron Rodgers, you had the opportunity to.
Mahomes.
Tom Brady, Mahomes. Sure, I'm not going to put that one, but I'm talking about like guys you could have went out and traded for instead of trading all those picks. Could have gotten Aaron Rodgers. You could have gotten Tom Brady if you wanted him. You could have gotten Matt Stafford if you wanted him. I think you get a Super Bowl with any of those guys.
Does Bob Myers
at least one?
Does Bob Myers put up, for example, Andre Iguodala as a meat shield on a day like yesterday, given what's going on social media?
Bob Myers is a dime a dozen.
But
yes.
That's
part
how
of
an
the job
adult handles things.
Well,
that's how the head of the
that's
family
why I said
handles
at the very
it.
least, couldn't John Lynch speak yesterday or something like that?
And all you have to say is this: hey guys, I don't have anything to report right now. I know everything's going out there, but I just wanted you guys to hear. Here's the statement that we have from the team. Like, come on, you're the cutting edge 49ers.
And then Brock,
you can't tuck tail and run.
And Trey's going to play on Friday.
That's going
to be interesting. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. That's Joe Shasky. He's on fire. He's going to bring that fire with Bonta Hill, who I'm sure is also going to be on fire.
So
the morning roast.
Disappointed.
He's not mad. He's disappointed on 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
Empower Me Academy, a San Francisco 501c3 social enterprise that facilitates leadership development through basketball, is hosting an Empower Fest August 26th and 27th at the Palace of Fine Arts. Players of all skill levels from 3rd to 12th grade can participate in March Madness tournament, style games, and skills challenges. All are welcome to come out and experience some great basketball, music, local food, and lots of fun. Go to empowermeacademy.net to learn more. We hope to see you there.